All right, we're live in the Exertis Broadcast Podcast studios. Today, I am joined by a special guest, Mr. Lee Reemsnyder from Vimeo Enterprise, here in studio with me today. I don't get a lot of studio guests, so I'm pumped. Yeah, love it. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for making the journey to the West Coast or to the northern part of the West Coast.
A journey it was.
Yeah, I heard you had a little fun time in the plane.
Some slight delays, some tarmac issues, but we're here. We're excited.
Good.
We're ready.
Because we got a lot to talk about. So, look, every manufacturer gets their product out there, puts it in, and then many of them just kind of sit on their butts and sit around. But that's not really the case with you all at Vimeo. You keep iterating, you keep adding new things. And I think we want to talk about some of those new features today. There's some exciting ones in there, folks. So we're going to get to that in a little bit. In the meantime, let's just kind of set the table for the world. What is Vimeo Enterprise? Who's it for? What are you doing with it? Who's buying it? Let's just talk about some of the core stuff here.
Okay. Well, I like to boil down what Vimeo Enterprise accomplishes into 3 Roman pillars. I make it super simple. So first
apparently
use
you've been on the show before.
Yeah.
You got to dumb it down for
you
me.
gotta
That's
keep
good.
it simple.
That's
you
fair.
have to keep it simple. So the enterprise platform really solves for the 3 Roman pillars, as I call them. The first one being internal comms. So if you are a Starbucks, a Lululemon, a large enterprise customer that has a globally distributed workforce, right? And you need to communicate to 6, 7, 8,000 people at once. This allows you to do that and also have engagement tools baked in while you're doing the event.
Okay, so let's put a pin in engagement tools. I want to come back to that one when we get to pillar 2. This is good.
Pillar 2, same concept, externally facing. So we'll stick with Lululemon, for example. They wanted to live stream spin classes, brand launches from within their stores, and they chose to use the Vimeo Enterprise platform for that because it's so reliable, because it can handle 60,000 viewers at once. And it's exciting.
Yeah, and that brings up a really interesting position right there that I think is going to become officially pin number 2, which is you kind of talked about internal versus external.
Yes.
And I think that's sort of demarcation point between an enterprise platform and a non-enterprise platform, right?
Yes.
I mean, there's sort of the wide area communication and then there's controlled communication. And that's, a piece that y'all can do that, say, YouTube and some of the others can't, just with that enterprise side. So let's come back to that one after. And what's our third?
Our third, I basically group these 2 together. We have our enterprise library. So all of that content that you're creating from the first 2 pillars, you need a way to organize it. The third pillar is the enterprise library. It allows you to index, easily search for video content, and it directly ties into another topic I'm sure we're going to touch on today, which is interactivity.
Yeah. So, okay. So just for the fun part here, my bullet points that we discussed without Lee ahead of time were live streaming, folders, SSO and security, and then of course interactivity, which all fall into your pillar. So I'm not kidding, folks. This was on my phone here, that topic point. So perfect that we were all thinking on the same page. Okay, so let's tackle the internal communications piece first, sort of that live stream. Now you talked a little bit about what falls in that first pillar in terms of being able to interact, or not interactivity in terms of where we're going to hit in the final button, but interaction with your audience, your internal audience. I mean, what makes Vimeo really the best at that?
So I always throw the word engagement around, right? When you're putting on a large scale internal production, I think what keeps folks engaged, tuned in, actually listening when people are talking is the live Q&A, the ability to have a moderated poll going on at the same time. And then, of course, the ability to have different types of guests, remote guests in. So they can be using another platform, but actually remote guests into our platform. So if you have Susan, per se, that is used to using a Zoom or a GoToMeeting, she can actually remote guest in. No one on the live stream knows it. And then you can switch it back to someone that's actually using the
So
enterprise
let's
platform.
compare that against some of the other platforms. So you said, so Q&A and questions are available in both Zoom and GoToMeeting.
Right.
But the ability to remote people in isn't, right? You sort of have to invite them in, and then they're part of the Brady Bunch effect.
Right.
Which is an okay to watch content until you want to share a presentation. Whereas
Exactly.
with Vimeo, we get a little more of a controlled experience. It's more like a traditional broadcast. So it's that engaging part of TV. But then the polls in the Q&A are, in my mind, done way better because they can turn those into graphics that we can bring right on air over the top of the video. You can't do that with the other platforms. It's sort of a sidebar, a distraction in terms of communication. We have to look away to see that data. So I do think that that's one of those early areas that sort of separates the gap there with where you're a true streaming platform and those are more of a video conferencing platform.
Correct.
Yeah.
I would also add to that. So we obviously use our own software when we have to do our global town halls. And it's always so entertaining because you can ask questions anonymously. So there's been some funny instances where it's our CEO, Anjali, shout out to Anjali, love her, where you can vote, the questions get pushed up to the top. And I just remember this one time, people had voted and we were switching offices or something. And one of the questions that got voted to the very top was, hey, now that we've IPO'd and we're, a successful company, is there any way we can get 3-ply toilet paper
Oh
in
my
the
God.
bathrooms? And I will never forget just laughing and thinking like, okay, the authenticity piece
Yes.
of it, the feedback that, I use that example, but there's other instances where, maybe you don't want to ask your boss if bonuses are in the future or something, right? Those questions are thrown in there as well. So you kind of get this authentic feedback that is what I think incredible.
Well, and it's, and again, that's something you're not going to get necessarily in a public forum, right? Especially
Right.
when we start mixing in external audiences and talking about that, which is a good time to probably transition here and talk about that second pillar, which was being able to communicate on both sides. I sort of call it the firewall, right? We got our internal audience within the firewall, our own company, our own employees, the message that we want to share with them about where we're going, what we're doing, maybe problems we might be having, but we don't want that to be public. And Vimeo allows for either or communication, right? We can have times it's all internal. We can have times we want to share that externally. And that becomes that ability for somebody like, I think it was Lulu that you were talking about, where they've got, okay, let's now host a spin and not have to go get another CDN, but keep that within our own platform, right?
Exactly. And they were already used to using the platform for their internal communication. So it worked out. I shouldn't say it worked out well, but they were prepared when the pandemic hit because then they just kind of pivoted to, okay, all of our retail locations are closed. How can we still need to make money, right?
Yeah.
And it was nice for them because, like I said, they were able to still showcase their brand launches and really try and connect with their consumers in a way that didn't really seem possible during the pandemic.
And it's important that connection point, not just in terms of sales, but connecting the audiences with the new things you're doing, but creating culture, right? And
Yes.
being able to create that culture around their brand and maintain that when people can't go enjoy that culture in store, right? And that
Exactly.
experience. And that's not easy to do. And it's much harder to do in a platform, say like YouTube, I would think, where you don't get to control the experience that user is coming into. The landing page, the advertisements, all the pieces that, that where YouTube is a for-profit company that really profits off of the advertising, not the streaming.
Right.
Vimeo's profiting on the experience of the user, and the users using the platform, I should say.
Yes.
So talk about that experience right there for a little bit, the sort of the lack of advertising and how you stack up against YouTube.
So I don't want to down talk YouTube.
No,
but
it has its place. I spend countless hours there every week learning how to do things. It absolutely has its place. But in an enterprise, when you're trying to control your brand message, your client experience, that place sort of falls apart.
Yes. So you make an excellent point. Where I see this becoming a problem for a lot of enterprise customers is they will have content that they've spent all of this time creating that is externally facing on their website. I'm not going to name the company, but I was visiting this company in Chicago, and before I even went into the office, I noticed that they had their CEO talking on one clip and it was on YouTube. And in between, their next video, it's a cat video.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, let's try the other one.
The
And the other
bane
one
of
was
the
like a
web.
toothpaste ad. I'm like, oh my God, you guys are $1 billion company. Do you not know about this?
Yeah.
So it's just the point being that control, right?
Yeah.
Being able to control, but also, we make it really easy for folks to even white label our product, So if you have the New York Stock Exchange, for example, they actually not only live stream with Vimeo the ringing of the bell every day, but then on the back end, they're storing that content, white labeling it, and it's all powered by Vimeo Enterprise.
Well, and there's an interesting layer there because when you look, like, for us, we put content on both. We have content that we host on Vimeo, we have content that we host on YouTube. But we get different metrics and different data out of that content, right? So we're using it for internal communications, we're using it for external communications. We're very much, like the rest of them. But externally, we look at that and we're able to glean a lot of data from where content is being viewed, how many times viewing, when are they stopping, and similar results that we might get from YouTube. But we know we're getting very clean data because we know exactly where it's published and how people are getting to that data. So it gives us a very clean snapshot of our user base, our audience, what's working for them, what's not, and also where they're coming from because we know exactly how they got to that video via our website.
Yes.
Right? Where we won't always get that with YouTube. If it gets republished and published somewhere else and linked somewhere else, we won't have control of that data near as much as we're given with the Vimeo side of it. Now, you brought up a really interesting piece there, which is sort of the structure of the data, and I think that kind of falls into that next point. And Jordan, one of our producers here, brought up this fact as well, that the experience you can create in the on-demand side of the content, because we're talking about live stream so much,
Right.
the live stream, but a lot of views are done on demand, right?
Yes.
They're people who missed the show or want to go back and watch it again, want to see the event. So talk about that structure of how you can utilize that data or all those video clips after the fact.
So I like to use the example of having, we're all guilty, at least I am, of having that messy Tupperware drawer where you have all of, in this case, video content that might be stored on someone else's drive, an SD card, etc. And the last pillar that we touched on earlier is the enterprise library. So it allows you to create these permissioned, I call them ribbons, where you can actually have up to, I want to say 10 admins. You can decide at what level each person is allowed to edit the video content. And it just organizes it in a fashion that makes it easy to search. You know where everything is, and then you can directly post it externally, internally, whatever you need to do with it from the platform.
And I'm a big fan of the showcases in there, right? I think those are not, and the showcases do something interesting. So for the audience that doesn't understand, showcases can be around events or around specific topics. And so we can it's like a folder. We can put all the content about that particular event or whatever we're working on. It might be a new project.
Yep.
Lump all that content together. Right. And so now we've got all that content in one place that's related, and even brand that showcase page.
Exactly.
Right?
It's like a microsite.
It is. It's very much a microsite. I like that. But a live event can be a part of that showcase as well. So it can be something that starts with an event and rolls to all this OTT content, or it can start OTT and roll into to a live event. But it's really a nice central hub of managing. And again, you sort of can't do that with the competitors. I mean, not at least YouTube from that perspective. Right?
Oh, definitely not.
It's sort of one stream of consciousness. So within the showcases, there's one other feature that I found really intriguing. And this was, I guess annotations, not the word, but sort of review and approve.
Yes.
There's a nice tool set there because if you think about it, we use this internally as we're sending product out to clients to look at, or internally before we unlock it to the world, so to speak, there's a review page. Talk to me about what you're able to do on that review page.
What aren't you able to do
I don't
on
know.
the review
I haven't
page?
figured it out yet. If I could, I'd break it myself. But yeah.
I think the best feature is as soon as you have a video uploaded, you have the trim tool, you have the notes on the side tool, you have the permissions where, let's say you're a junior marketing executive, right? You can have that person with a certain set of permissions that might only be making notes on the side, all the way up to, let's say, the VP of marketing that has the ability to approve those changes, approve it for posting internal, external, and then do all of the editing all from within the platform. So you're not having to use multiple vendors to edit on this program, upload here, hope that, the trimming worked well. It's just nice that you can do it all in one place.
And it's some of those those almost Frame.io type experience pieces where I can tag a specific moment in the video and actually leave, leave the tag right over the spot. Oh, we spelled a word wrong, tag it right there. Hey guys, this word's spelled wrong. Let's fix that or something. Those sort of logging tools and annotation tools, I think, are very powerful. Just because, ordinarily you're writing down time code, you're emailing, you're sending that message off, hoping they can find that exact time code. Now it's like, play it back, boop, there it is. It's right there in your face, so to speak. So and again, those are tools that traditionally you would see in another platform, like you said, and here we've got them all lumped into one.
All lumped into one.
All lumped into one. That's good. And then, okay, so multiple times now you've brought up permissions. And that's sort of a key to, again, coming back to that enterprise conversation. Talk to me about the permission structure. What can you do? What does that give somebody the ability?
So when I say permissions, we call them admins, right? So I kind of just touched on, you might have someone that's, let's say, a junior marketing associate that's working on the video content that you don't necessarily want to be able to edit a video, really they just need to make notes, right? All the way up to, like I said, the VP of marketing who is making all of the final decisions and instantly has the ability to be like, okay, check mark, this looks good, let's have this posted. But additionally, you can create marketing materials that are directly from the content that you have in there. So you want to put a lower thirds graphic over even a Zoom call, right? You have that ability right from within the platform, which is nice. It really just brands and kind of ties everything together if you are posting the content externally or if you're using it internally as well. The permissions are good because, again, you don't necessarily want someone that's junior to be able to mess up or accidentally edit out something that was crucial.
Let me hone in one layer deeper on that, which is permissions fall into a term that maybe some people haven't heard of before, SSO, right?
Yes.
Single sign-on. And that, again, is that extra layer that's actually fairly hard to do. And you don't see a lot of platforms attack this. Talk to me a little bit about SSO and what that means for you all.
Well, it's always the first question I get at the end of my demos. Do you guys have the ability to integrate with, a lot of folks are using Azure or Okta, and the answer is yes. And it makes it nice because, security is a big issue. And the fact that we are agnostic and integrate with any of the major SSO providers, I think is not only a differentiator for us, but a game changer.
Yeah. And for the audience member who don't know what SSO, it's single sign-on.
Yes.
Right. And it's sort of that, it's the, we keep you from getting Zoom bombed kind of feature, right?
Yes.
Which is, the nice part, and again, as we tie into this, it's what allows you to have an external versus internal audience, because you can host an event and say, I only want people that already carry my email address, right?
Yes.
Only internal employees. And we tie that into the SSO so only they can log in and see it, versus an event that we're doing, we want everybody to see, right? And sort of opens that opportunity up. And again, something that not all platforms do.
Yeah.
Becomes very, very quintessential tool to being a true enterprise platform versus a CDN, on that side. We're not just a CDN anymore. It's interesting. Now, you offer some restreaming capabilities.
Yes.
So if somebody does, let's say they're doing an internal one, but they do want to flip something, but they don't want people doing it necessarily in Vimeo, how are you able to connect out to other platforms?
So I'm glad you brought this up. I was going to touch on it earlier, but we do have the ability and appreciate, some of our other video providers in the industry. So we give you the ability to simulcast to YouTube. A lot of folks are also taking the opportunity to simulcast to their audience following on LinkedIn, for example, right? It's a different set of folks that they might not necessarily reach with content that's only posted on their website.
All right. So no, this is good. So, and that would be, YouTube's, I mean, you actually have the, another Vimeo streaming service. I mean, literally, is there anybody it can't connect with? I mean, it's pretty much RTMP, RTMPS at this point.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we've been talking about all these features that are sort of standard Vimeo fare. I mean, since we first started looking at this product and talking, I mean, they've been features that have always been here. That's part of what makes it Vimeo Enterprise. But there is something new.
There is.
And there's something really exciting.
Very exciting.
So lay it on me. Or lay it on the audience, I should say, because I know what it is. Yeah.
So we recently acquired a company called Wirewax, which allows you to add interactivity to any video content that you're creating, internal, external content that you might already have created previously. But what's nice is, let's say you're doing a live stream, right? You're doing an internal global town hall and you want to add a hotspot to the CEO that's talking, right? What's nice is you can have that set up. So you can have your mouse hover over it, and then it will pull up, a little blurb on the CEO of this company. Same concept with companies like Dyson, Chop Value, a very exciting one that I always like to talk about. It's a company that makes products out of recycled chopsticks.
Nice.
And if you have the chance to look up their website, it's pretty cool. They have this $67 charcuterie board that is amazing. It's made out of recycled chopsticks. So it's a statement piece, but it's so cool to see their CEO. And I like the example I just talked about where you hover over his face, you can learn more about him. His name is Felix.
Is it just a little pop-up on the screen in this case, or does it launch you into a new video? What is that experience?
So you actually can choose your own journey, if you will. You can choose to pause the video and learn more about, in this case, his name is Felix, or you can choose to return to the video and learn more about the charcuterie board. Another good example of that is the Radisson Hotel brand. They applied interactivity to their internal content. So all of their employees are going through a training video, and there's some wrong answers that you can have. So let's say it's a guest's birthday, right? The video gives you the option to answer A, B, and C. What do you do? Do you say, congrats, it's your birthday, and send them to their room? Do you offer them a cupcake? Or, and this is pretty obvious, do you offer them some sort of upgrade, perhaps a recommendation on dinner, maybe, just something special, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully you click that one. But if you don't, it takes you back to the beginning and you have to start the journey again.
Well, and that's it's hard and we've dealt with this internally, just training people on products, making sure our own team is up on everything. It's hard to get that consistent message.
Right.
And if you're trying to build a brand experience, having a tool that allows you to reinforce it and get back to that experience that you want for your customers, sounds like interactivity gives them that tool set. Now, it's funny to me because I've been hearing interactivity for a long time. And even if you go back, say, in the early Amazon days, second screen experience was about, hey, I can buy that thing on the screen by holding my phone up to it, right? It's always been about selling, but it's always been a very complicated, over-cumbersome solution and not really for everybody, for the masses. And even in our own testing experience, it looks like interactivity is sort of here for the masses now, right? Anybody can sort of say, I want a level of interactivity. And in our own experience, it's very diverse in what you can do. Cut to other videos, jump to different points in the video, pop up an extra page. I mean, there's so much you can do with this. It's, I think, one of the more exciting things that Vimeo's done since I've been looking at the platform, maybe since they bought Livestream. I mean, even going back.
I would agree with that. And to your point, a lot of folks are using the interactivity as an application to actually, we'll use the Chop Value example again. You can actually make a purchase directly from that video. So if you like that charcuterie board, you can click on it and it takes you to a separate page that has a couple of static images in their case. You can actually make the purchase, or again, choose your own journey.
Yeah.
You can go back and decide to learn more about the CEO or whatever you'd like to do. But
so at this time, this interactivity option is it an add-on that existing customers can get?
Yes. So if you have Enterprise, it is an add-on, but it's not, it's not $100,000 add-on. It's I think very affordable and something that a lot of folks are seeing drive not just engagement, but actual ROI.
It's interesting. I mean, I remember going into clients. Really smart clients are the hardest ones to sell to because they always feel like they can build it themselves.
Yes.
Right. And, and I've, in the years selling MAMs and DAMs and PAMs, effectively they're a database with a pretty front end. And there's always one guy in the room who's like, I'm a database guy, I can build it. And then a year later, he's still working on it. And I say to myself, in that amount of time, you could have bought it, used it, enjoyed it, and moved on to go on to a vacation. Instead, you're still working on it. And I kind of feel like this interactive thing is one of those pieces. Yes, somebody could probably code it, but in that amount of time at that cost, you could be using it tomorrow.
Yes.
Inside of Vimeo and be interacting. So one of these things is like, why bother when it's there, it works, and it's supported.
We have companies that have went from making 6 videos a year to 6 videos a month because it's that easy to just add the interactivity feature to, again, content that you may have already created or that you are currently in the process of creating. And it's just so simple to use too.
Well, and it's so powerful in the idea that it can be used for so many different things, right? Customer engagement, giving them an opportunity and gleaning data, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so often we forget the analytics side of this. What are they clicking on? What are they watching? When did they stop and go look at something else, right? All this is really relevant information to us, learning how to better engage our audiences. And so this interactive piece creates a whole new piece of metadata, right? A whole new interesting set of analytics that can tell us more about our audience, more about what our employees need to know, right? Where are they, clicking the wrong button and how often, right? And are they all in a certain office? Because maybe we need to know what they're drinking, right? What's in the water
they're
there?
Not being punished. I think there's supposed to be an enjoyable learning experience.
That's right. But this is a tool that will allow us in marketing and in education to better understand our audiences and sort of meet them in a new place.
Yes.
So I think it's spectacular. What's for you? I mean, how long have you been at Vimeo?
I'm approaching 2 years.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
What has been fun about this? Well, let me ask you this. What's your favorite part about this over the course of 2 years?
My favorite part about working for Vimeo is, I would say, okay, I have a few answers. Is that allowed?
No, it totally is. And I know we're number one. It's coming to hang out with us. So let's go ahead and skip number one.
Definitely our partnership with Exertis, number one,
all right,
hands down. We love you guys. But just the culture, I'm a remote employee. I was just telling someone this. I realized that I have now been remote fully for almost 10 years. And what's nice about Vimeo is, we're headquartered in New York, but we have offices all over the country. So it's always nice to meet folks that are, living a different experience than I am, being based in West Hollywood. But it's so cool. I always feel so connected with my coworkers, which is great. So I'll say the culture piece, but also the product. When I go into partners, and we talk about things like interactivity and the ease of use of the product, it is so refreshing to see people's faces light up and they're excited about our product. And it's not hard to learn, right? I was given an example. I say, like, if you've made a TikTok or you've went live on Instagram, it's really that easy, right? So I really appreciate that. I think our company does a good job of trying to create a product has created a product rather, that is just easy and simple to use. Like you said, rather than a year, or the company that's doing 6 videos a year, they're now doing 6 videos a month. So that to me is amazing.
How interesting though that, you've been working remote 10 years.
Yes.
You've obviously found some success at it and enjoyment at it.
Yeah.
That you keep going back to it and not to an office. But you're now with a company that's powering remote workforce.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, the tool set you guys are building and you're out there selling is the one that's allowing people to communicate, collaborate, to work remote and to, and to maintain their cultures.
Yes.
Right. And their, I guess their family, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is, it's very cool. It's very cool. All right. And what's your favorite client you worked with so far?
Ooh, let me think. So when I first started, we were onboarding Starbucks and we were kind of in talks with them. It was piloting the update to our video library, or I guess you could say the launch of it. So it was just cool to see that they were applying a product that I was using internally. So we just talked about me being remote. I onboarded fully remote. So I was actively using the video library to learn the product, hit rewind, listen to it again. And Starbucks did the same thing. And it was cool to see, okay, we want to have a standardized way that we train our employees, the messaging that we're putting out there for them. And they were just so impressed with the ability of our platform to organize, index all of that content. And so it was cool to see it in, real time being applied. So I'm also a big fan of Starbucks.
Well, come on, who isn't? We're all addicted, right?
I mean, I will make it a point when I travel for work to stop at Starbucks, get 2 quad espresso so that as soon as I wake up in my hotel room, I have it in the fridge. I just toss it back. I need that caffeine.
Oh, good times. I love it. Well, just so you know, we got some espresso here if you need it. So we're good. We're good. Awesome. Well, Lee, listen, thank you so much for the support, and thanks you for being on the show. This is great to have you in the studio.
I know. I was so excited in person.
We even got your name right?
I feel like a star.
That's beautiful. All right. We're going to call this episode of the Exertis Broadcast Podcast adieu. Again, thanks to Lee for coming in the studio. Thanks for our in-house staff, Jordan Friday and Delana Collins, for being here and running the board. And we'll see you all on the next episode of our podcast.